Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka podcast.
Baka. It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Baka. We are an anime podcast. Every 2 weeks, we come together. We talk about a anime that we recently watched. We have come back to one of our favorites. We not only have watched season 1 twice, we've watched the first part of the second season, and now we're on to the second part. We're very excited about it. You already know what it is. You clicked on the episode, but it's ReZero, season 2, the second half, episodes 14 through 25. And this time, I'm pretty sure all of us have seen every episode. We'll come back to that.
We don't have a good track record.
To discuss this favorite anime of ours, I need the help of my co-host. First off, we have the lion to my pride, Jeremy.
Hey. Yeah, things been going good. Look how you always leave me hanging there.
How are you, Jeremy?
Oh, there we go. I'm doing great. Just trying to scramble to get done with classes, and I did manage to find a little time to play some RimWorld. Just actually more modding than playing, but still, it was fun. It was play for me. I probably spent like half of the time just organizing the mods and moving them around to try and get just the right factions and just the right quality of life things. But I did start a campaign, and I made the stupidest mistake because everything was going so well, and these raiders showed up on the edge of my map, and I had a boomalope had just made itself a pet, had just tamed itself, right? And so they started attacking it, and I'm like, well, I don't really care if they kill it because it's going to blow up, right? So I knew it would blow up. Okay, that's there, evidence that I knew this. But I sent my guys out anyways, got rid of the bad guys, and the boomalope needed care. So, of course, you've got to create an animal spot for it to go rest in so you can tend to it and fix it back up. And so where do I put it? I put it in the center of my kitchen. And, of course, because it's early game, my kitchen's connected to all the bedrooms. So the boomalope runs in and rests, but my other characters were injured too, so none of them went to tend the boomalope. And I realized this a few seconds later when I look over and the boomalope says 3 seconds until death. I'm like, no. And so I get my guys and I run them out of the area. It blows up, lights everything on fire. And then, of course, my guys are running around trying to put out the fires, but the temperature of the rooms is becoming blistering hot, and so they all burn alive inside of their own house before I could do anything, and that was the end of that campaign. So it's been a blast.
Do you have a bet with someone on how many times you can say boomalope in the intro, or
Boomalope.
Okay. Also discussing this anime, we have our other host, the DMV to my sloth, Jason. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Actually, I got a chance to watch some movies, which is really strange for me, right? I do have to preface this though. If you have a need for just a wild ride of a show, Raised by Wolves is just going to take you on a journey of horrendousness.
It's like I've heard that somewhere.
I didn't mention that one because I was wondering if you were going to talk about it.
Well, didn't you mention that last week though?
I don't think I mentioned it on the podcast, did I? Or, I thought I was just talking about
our regular chats, our podcast chats, they all blur together for me.
Yeah, they really do. For me too, I guess.
Yeah, so that was eventful, but then I also started watching some DC stuff, and man, I'm kicking myself that I never watched Man of Steel up until now. I was so impressed with, because you heard reviews all over the place about how it stands up to MCU, how it stands up to other Superman movies, and how the DC universe as a whole. Um, I love the themes that it touched on. It wasn't a perfect movie, but I did love how they just wanted to kind of show not only the darker side, but also like makes you feel bad for liking big city destroying movies. So, but yeah, it was it was a lot of fun to watch.
Very cool. And my name is Troy, and I don't have an animal/sin because I'm perfect. I've been watching a lot of shows. Invincible has been really cool. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Zemo as best character. Marvel released a 1 hour video of him dancing in a nightclub.
What?
I love it. I was excited when they were bringing Zemo back because he's the one of the few villains who ever won. Right? In Civil War, Zemo wins. He gets what he wants. But so it was cool that he's brought back. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about is I started playing Days Gone on PlayStation 5 as part of the PlayStation 4 games that are. It's the motorcycle zombie apocalypse game, which I thought would be more open world Last of Us, and instead was more zombie Witcher 3 with a motorcycle. It gives me a lot more Witcher vibes than I was expecting, and I'm really enjoying it. The fact you have to find gas cans to keep your fuel filled on your bike, or your bike will just run out of gas and you have to go walking away from it and come back to it. You only have one bike. Wherever you leave it, you have to go all the way back to it, so you can't just summon it. It's been really cool. I'm still very much in the early stages of it, but and Sam Witwer's my boy. That guy's awesome. So especially when he gets mad at Kenobi, it's the best.
I have to mention PoE Ultimatum is coming out.
PoE has
April
to
16th. Just saying.
None to add, Jason? No, I'm just kidding. I won't edit that out. I won't do you like that again. I'll say I just don't want to take the time. Let's talk about the anime because we have a lot to talk about. Guys, there's not even OP until like 5 episodes in.
Yep.
All right. So we watched the second half of season 2, and it's been months for us since in between these. So do keep that in mind. If you came in and you just watched all of season 2, like my oldest daughter did, and she's like, "Oh, that one scene," and I'm like, "That was 3 months ago for me, and I don't remember any of those character names." Also, last time we talked about it, we did leave out a final episode, so I'm going to kind of recap that a little bit, get some thoughts there. But for where we are right now, non-spoiler review of this second half. Jeremy, what'd you think?
I mean, they lived up to my expectations. Let's put it that way. I really liked it. I thought the character development was great across the board. There was consistency with previous themes, but exploring it maybe in a greater depth. Definitely some of the coolest fight scenes that I've seen yet. Absolutely loved them. Yeah, just really good. Definitely recommend it.
Yeah, in fact, Jeremy liked it so much, his sound just got better.
Yeah. I've returned by life. I returned by death.
Jason, what did you think?
I hated how much I like it. It's frustrating, my experience with this anime so far, because not only is it this love-hate relationship, I want to know more, but I love the package they've given me. I also found myself going, why is this story constantly building up these characters I love and then tearing them away and leaving me a husk of a person? The writing is just clean. The dialogue is super believable, and normally I don't get that unless I watch a dub. I watched the sub for all of this season, and yeah, I'm hanging on every word, even though I'm having to read it instead of just listen to it. The tiny spoiler, I hated the way it made me feel about Beetlejuice, and because I loved hating him, and now I don't.
To me, ReZero is the anime watcher's nearly perfect anime. Like I have it almost right under Full Metal Alchemist, which I very much hold in the same regard. It's not an anime I can take to a normal person that doesn't watch anime and say, "Hey, check out this great show." Like Promised Neverland season 1, we don't talk about season 2. I heard we don't talk about season 2, and we're not going to. But Promised Neverland season 1, I literally have gone to people who don't watch anime and be like, "Just watch this," and they're like, "That was great." I'm like, "Yes, it was. It's great story nonstop."
And that's the only thing you have out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. ReZero is a great anime, and you have, but it, knowing anime tropes, knowing it goes through, it has so many different anime genres. I was thinking like there's romance, there's power battles, there's horror, there's so many different genres. This thing just flips through episode after episode, scene after scene. But so if you love anime, ReZero is just the anime for you. I really do feel that strongly. That it is a near perfect anime. I have some nitpicks that did not ruin my enjoyment of watching this. One is that I do think that there's some stuff not fully fleshed out or explained especially in this part where I'm like, by now I think we should have been. And I feel like I'm either missing stuff because I didn't read the light novel or didn't watch an OVA, or should have maybe dug into the wiki a little more than, and that's a little frustrating. But also, it's probably just me not fully picking up all the subtle hints, because they do reference these things very subtly.
It's dangerous if you have to go to the wiki.
Yes,
that's really dangerous.
And I did. Actually, after when I got done, I went to the wiki and was reading stuff, and then was trying to like, oh no, that said arc 5, where we are firmly in arc 4 right now. I don't want to know about that. But then I was reading stuff about arc 4. I'm like, okay, that made this make more sense, and that did happen to me a couple times. Other than that, I think one of the flashbacks, I was like, okay, it's a little bit much with flashbacks in this part. On one of them.
We do get a lot of flashbacks for this entire season 2. There's a lot of flashbacks here.
Are you talking about flashbacks or trials? Because they kind of
the trials essentially are flashbacks.
Technically,
right.
In this one, I'm technically talking about a flashback. I'll point it out when we get to it in the spoiler section. Mm-hmm. Moving on, though, even though it only played a handful of times, of even that, the OP and the ED, what'd you guys think?
Fantastic. The music is spot on, and I love the visuals of the OP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same. I love this song. I got it on the Beat Saber. It's great.
Long Shot has been added to the list. Yep, that's for sure. Yep. After watching it, I'm like, oh, I can't understand why we didn't get to see that, because it does spoil a lot of things. And even after we get to see it, I'm kind of like, wow, you showed a lot about what's coming up, but all right, that's fine.
I think that's one consistent thing this anime has done from episode 1, season 1 to now, is the way it treats its OP and ED. They don't just throw it in as Sakurai to just be there as this serial thing. It's very, I don't know. It's almost part of the storytelling, because they use it to either prep you for something, or they're using it to kind of, I don't know, like twist the knife, because like you'll get to the end of an episode and they do something that you're just like, and then here comes the credits and it's like playing the song that is twisting the knife on you. So yeah, like they use it as a tool instead of just a reminder that you're watching their anime.
Yeah, it's very theatrical.
Mm-hmm. One question for you guys: the song "Long Shot," do you think that is referring more to Subaru or Emilia?
I'd have to go back and listen to the lyrics, because I could see an argument for both.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, I had that
Yeah.
argument. I've had that argument with myself every time I've listened to it. Like, oh, that makes sense for Emilia, but that kind of makes more sense for Subaru.
Mhm.
All right, we can move on. Which means we're on to our spoiler section. So, if you have not seen any ReZero, this was a weird episode to start with. If you haven't seen season 2, part 2, we obviously highly recommend you do so. From here on out, there will be spoilers about plot points, characters. I mean, there will be theories, but every theory we've ever thrown out has been horribly wrong, I think, at this point. So maybe we should stop that. But yeah, so a lot of stuff is coming out here. So spoiler warning dropped. Like I said, we didn't really get to discuss how part 1 ended.
Yeah,
We-
because Jason and I were the ones that saw it.
Yep, I didn't watch it.
I don't
You guys
remember.
didn't have notes. You guys brought up the witches' tea party, and I did add a ending bumper to explain what happened, but we didn't get to really discuss. Basically, the real ending is Subaru goes to Roswell and says they start talking, and Roswell reveals like he's been the villain the whole time. He hired the assassin in the first arc. He's hired the assassins now. He's trying to get Emilia depressed. He's basically trying to always put Subaru into checkmate to make him start sacrificing things that aren't important to him to make him focused on the objective that Roswell wants. And Roswell is fully aware that he can return by death. Subaru has like a panic attack and he runs out into the forest, and Otto, our boy Otto, punches him and tells him to, like, you got to get your stuff together, man. And that's where we pick up. So our opening scene is with Subaru and Otto in that dark forest having a talk about, you got to rely on your friends. You can't just always take on this burden for yourself. And it doesn't matter if what you're about to tell me is crazy. You have to tell me what's going on and just say, trust me, and I will. So first, let's talk about Subaru, and especially in this arc, what did you guys think about his arc here?
Best friend buddy talk I think I've seen in a show, let alone an anime, in quite some time. It's just one of those, like, you're my best friend punch. I love you, man. Slam. Like, it was very much, two testosterones trying to come to terms. No, basically they both understand they're on the same side, but they just don't see eye to eye. And it was this test of will. And watching this unassuming merchant step up to be that friend for Subaru was really cool. And I think we mentioned that last time. Like, this whole anime, Otto's been almost a background character. And in the last few episodes of the first part of the second season, he really steps up as a character and, like, really shows his appreciation for what Subaru's done for him. And
that isn't
what?
That's awesome. But what did you think about Subaru in this season?
Oh,
Jason really likes Otto.
Otto's next.
Subaru was fantastic.
Main character.
Watching him grow from a selfish punk kid that gets transported here to the stalwart knight that he becomes was fantastic. And I loved watching every moment of it.
Jeremy,
can we talk about Otto?
Yeah, Jeremy, your thoughts on Subaru in this arc?
I was really, really surprised at how long he lives. And every time that he would achieve something, I would think, is he going to have to redo all this? How is he staying so composed? How is he staying so confident? Because he was, and that was very different from how he was in the previous arcs, right? Like, he would try to stay composed, but you could see the shake, you could see the quiver a lot more readily in those previous times. But this time, with each step of the way, he felt more solid. Like, he was in control, and even when he wasn't in control, he wasn't afraid. He wasn't terrified. I'm sure that there was fear. There was definitely fear. We see moments where he's trembling, but he held it in check. And he did so much better than he did in the previous ones. I was really sitting there thinking, I don't know how he's doing that. I don't know how he's facing this situation right now without freaking out. I mean, even with everything he's seen. So he's grown a lot. The things that he winds up saying to others to encourage them kind of caught me out of left field because, yes, they are definitely characteristic of Subaru and his perception, like his view of the world, the way that he wants to build everybody up and, you know, essentially just try to be there to help them. But it just didn't occur to me as the solution for the problem. So it was really interesting to see how he was able to use it to make a solution, because it could very easily have not worked. But he did it just right. And of course, you know, as any good story that's told, all the pieces fall into place at just the right time so that you have the right levels of tension. That happened a ton with him this time. It just felt like things really checked into place for him. Obviously, he was doing a lot of planning behind the scenes, so it's not like it's Deus Ex Machina stuff. But yeah, so I don't know. I liked him, but at the same time, he felt a little teeny tiny bit less believable for me. Not enough to mar my view of the character, but just something that I noticed.
But he, one thing, like he's done this loop quite a few times already, so like he knows what's happening in the next couple of days. So like, I get where you're coming from, especially when facing down the rabbits again. But you know, he's also like, you know, he made that wager into Roswell. So yeah, I was in the same boat. I was like, is he gonna finish this wager? Like, is he gonna win, or is he gonna have to go do this over again?
Exactly.
But one thing I did notice, Roswell's not the only one that's noticed he loops, but I think Roswell's the only one that's been able to identify that's what's happening.
Ram.
Yeah.
Ram.
It's Ram.
Is it Ram?
It's Ram spelled Ram.
Anyways, Ram has noticed that there are moments when Barasu will have this confidence, and she's like, "That's it. We're doing what he says." Because there's she mentioned that, and I thought that was really cool that she's
a man
noticed,
of good timing.
Yes,
there's yeah.
I do wonder, Jeremy, that if you had watched the whole season as it meant to be played out back to back, one whole season long, that wouldn't have happened. Because yeah, in this whole arc or this whole part 2, there's no loop by deaths, but he had a ton of loop by deaths in the first half to set up for this. And actually, you know, my big thought was Subaru's character arc stops right here at this moment. Is when he gets his resolve and comes up with the plan to conquer all these demons he was dealing with that last part. He doesn't change from this moment on, but becomes a catalyst for other characters' changes. But this is the end of his character arc for now, and I don't think this will be I trust ReZero enough at this point that he'll keep character arcing. But for this story arc, this is his resolution point. And I do think that there was a pandemic. They broke up the season. There's nothing they could do. But I do think it would have served him a little better to be back to back to put those together better. But I do really enjoy seeing him reach that moment of growth and then seeing the rewards of it, especially knowing how much he suffered in that last part. And even then, he still has to think on his feet. But because he's got this, I'm not in this alone anymore. And the problem he was having was how alone he was, despite being surrounded by friends. This was a problem he had to face alone. And then he realized, no, we have to face this as a team. So,
in fact, it took till this episode for him to finally relent that. He's been doing that since he got to this world in episode 1. He's been pushing even his closest friends away, going, I have to do this alone.
See, and that's where I'm a little confused, because what is it that constitutes him accepting help, and what is it that constitutes him pushing people away? Because there is no way he'd even be at this point if it wasn't for getting help from everybody. So at what point does it become asking for help from a friend?
I had that thought, especially because he did kind of get to a similar point to defeat the White Whale and the witch's cult. But
it had to be on his terms.
Yeah, I saw that more as self-actualization of I can do this and I have to believe in myself. And then I came up with these plans and these people did it. Whereas he's like trusting Otto to come up with a plan for him.
Sort of.
He's trusting Emilia to figure out how to deal with the trials on her own. He's encouraging her, but he's not coming up with, here's how you're going to do these trials, or here's how I'm going to beat the trials for you. It's, look, I know you can do this. I'm putting my trust in you, and I'm letting go. Whereas versus the White Whale and the Witch's Cult, he was micromanaging everything, and it was still his plan, his grip on everything that got everything resolved.
And we saw,
to me,
we saw what happened to him early on when things didn't go his way with the green-haired lady. God, I can't remember her name.
I think her name was
Krush. Yeah, when Krush told him no, that he lost it because he's like it was not going his way, and he'd already gone through that particular loop, and now he's like Trey said, he's putting more trust in people to do their part instead of inscribing what their part should be.
See, and that's where I understand where you guys are coming from, but I still think I disagree a little bit, and here's my reason why. Is in those situations, I didn't really see it as him trying to force his way on those people so much as if he didn't get their help, they wouldn't have acted at all. Like in the situation with the White Whale, right? Krush was off preparing her men to do something, but that would come at a time that was too late to do anything about Emilia. So it would essentially be either she does what he needs him to do now, or he dies again, Emilia dies, right? So in that situation, it's not like he's trying to control them or trying to micromanage them so much as just trying to get them to act, which in a way is very similar to, trying to get Ram and other characters ready to go to the mansion to try and save Ram in the first half of season 2, where he did basically the same thing. And then here, where as soon as he works out the plan with Otto, which I kind of see as the same thing as preparing a tactical battle plan with Krush, right? Sorry, car. Yeah.
That was a train.
No, we live on a highway.
Special guest appearance by Car in this episode.
That's right. But where essentially with Otto, he was just preparing a tactical plan. And I kind of saw the situation with Otto being something where he had no reason to think that Otto would be useful in this way, like that Otto would have a tactical or strategic mind, or that he would have anything to offer to try and solve the problem that Subaru was facing. And so I think that's how I interpreted this, is that Otto was saying, I am useful. I am a tool that can make a difference here. Use me. Let's plan this together. Because once he did that and planned it with Otto, it kind of was no different to have Emilia go and do the trials and Otto and Ram do their thing with Garf and then split off in other ways. That was very similar to how like different groups from the White Whale combat afterwards split off to do this, and some of them took the people back, and then there were those that went with Emilia, right? Like the mercenary group went and did some things. Not everybody was immediately under the supervision of Subaru. It was just kind of like, these are the plans. So I don't know. I guess I didn't see as big of a difference in his behavior toward others for asking for help or anything. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still a little confused, I guess is all I can say.
I think it's less about help. It's more about trust. And he didn't trust before.
Especially, I also think there's a difference of, if these soldiers go over there and do their own thing and die, meh. If Otto goes over there and does his own thing and dies, I care about Otto. I don't want that to happen to Otto. And so by trying to protect the people he cares about, he wasn't letting them be part of the team. And I don't think I think he's like, Otto, what do you want? Can you distract Garfield? And he wasn't like, here's how you distract Garfield.
Yeah.
I don't think he knew Rom was getting involved. I think he even punches Otto like, I can't believe you did it that way. That was so dumb.
But good job.
Yep.
All right. Now it's time to talk about Otto, though.
Yeah,
Jason,
he's all right.
You have any thoughts on the man?
I think I laid him out already, but I thought he was brilliant. Again, this unassuming merchant that was nearly a background character for the rest of this anime all of a sudden steps up and is just, an amazing best friend, and his power is sweet. I didn't realize there are clues that he has this power earlier on, like when he was first marching, like in season 1, when he's in the cart going through the forest. He's like, yeah, I know we can go this way. Like
he said it.
No, he explicitly states it.
Yeah, in the end of season 1, when they're running through the forest to get to the bomb and they have to take a shortcut, he's like, yeah, the forest animals are telling me which way to go. Like they talk to me.
Yeah. Right. I wasn't sure if that was I can understand them, or we can directly communicate. And
you mean like the scene where he's going, ha-ha! Yeah.
But yeah, I thought he played a fantastic role in this side.
Jeremy, what'd you think?
Yeah, all the same things. I was really impressed with his backstory. It was really cool to imagine what life would have been like for a little kid who could hear every creature around him. I mean, we're talking insects, and you know how many insects there are. So that would just be deafening. And it was. And they portrayed that so convincingly, and how his parents were even afraid that maybe he had a mental disability is the impression I got from their conversation with the doctor and how they acted toward him. And just, it was really heartwarming. His entire backstory was just like, oh man, you're just trying to tear jerk me. This is great. But yeah, and in this he was reliable.
Gotta be a better phrase for that.
I thought about that as I said it. But Baka Baka Baka.
Yeah. Take me out back and never mind.
Yep. But yeah, he was reliable, and he was he was a really cool character. I enjoyed. He still messed up a lot. Oh, there were a couple of scenes that absolutely cracked me up because he was kind of the punching bag for people too. Like there's one scene where, what's her name? The little girl? I can't remember her name. Petra. Yeah. When at the end of everything, she just reaches up and smacks him in the side of the face. And then in the scene where everybody's taking pot shots at Mathers. Oh my God. Just seeing Otto do it was hysterical. Yeah. And it was, I don't know. He really added a necessary element. Very, very entertaining.
If I die, make sure you write on my grave that Otto killed me. Great line. Yeah, so for basically all the reasons you guys have said, you covered everything that I really like about Otto. My favorite thing, to build on what Jason had said about him, we had talked about he was a background character, and then you just don't see him coming, and all of a sudden he's a main character, and you're like, okay, I guess you're important. He's so important, he gets OP music set to a scene for himself. But also, there's a character in this anime who felt the same way. Roswell's like, wait, wasn't this like a background character? Who is this? I didn't see this guy coming at all. And I was like, me too, Roswell, me too. And I really enjoy that the anime recognizes that they did that. The way they subverted the expectations of both characters and audience at the same time. That's a beautiful combination. I like that. All right, so Otto basically beats up Subaru and tells him, yeah, you're gonna start trusting friends, and then it's implied that Subaru tells him everything that he's able to, right, about everything.
Mm-hmm. My assumption is that he's telling him what he knows about, like, in the mansion stuff, but not really touching on how he knows.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They march up to Roswell, and Subaru challenges him to the bet. We've already alluded to this, but he basically says, if I win in this loop, you work for me. Like, you join the team. And if I fail, I'll do what you want. I'll help you with your goal. I'm going to do it in one loop. I'm not going to need to reset at all. And it takes that deal. I really like this because one of the problems this show could get into, and we've talked about multiple times, that's if Subaru just gets suicide happy to reset, and I stubbed my toe this time, try again. That would really ruin the show, and the show's done a lot to keep us away from that. We've seen futures where Subaru had killed himself, and he's forced to, maybe those exist somewhere. But at this point, this half of the season is laying down the gauntlet and saying this life has to matter. And then we find out later there was actually huge stakes. He literally couldn't take this back. I kind of wish we had known that going in, because I was like, I mean, if he resets, he'd probably get away with it, right?
Well, it seemed like he even thought so, because there's one point where he even says outright, if I open this door and you don't, link me to your library, I'm going to probably die. And then he opens it anyways. And I'm like, okay, he was ready to reset at that point. And he would have wound up with the stakes.
Yeah.
Yep.
He then he has a conversation with Ram afterward, where she tells him that Emilia has been struggling, but she's not quite sure why. But Subaru first has to talk to Ryuzu. She's not a character really to talk about because there's so many Ryuzus. There's just so many. But we had learned last time that she is an old woman who looks like a young child, but there's actually she's a clone, and there's lots of clones of her. And they are kind of the guardians of the sanctuary, this area where demi-humans live that are sealed behind a barrier. They can't leave, and bad things can't get in. That's the stakes of the mission, right? They have to get the barrier down so people can get out. They talk about Garfield a little bit, and she reveals that of all the clones, there was 4 major ones that alternate being in charge, but there was one called Ryuzu Shina that had tried to take the trial, has been close with Garfield his whole life, acts as a grandmother to her, and she's kind of been outcast from the other clones. She's not allowed to help anymore. She has to go live over with Garfield.
Because when they switch places, they share memories, right? It seems that way.
I think they do, like, update the system.
And because Shima was outcast, they don't know Shima's memories, and Shima doesn't know their memories either.
Mm-hmm.
And again, because she's taking the trial, she's seen things that they might need to know later. That's important.
Although the younger clones don't know what the older clones know, so
just the 4 of them sharing.
I wonder if maybe it's just that they talk about what they've experienced or something. I don't know.
They made it so again, I'd have to check the wiki. They made it appear, or they seem to imply that the 4 major ones were, like, when they switch to, like, be a representative for the 4, that's when they would share memories. So it would only be those 3 that have shared memories, and then Shima obviously doesn't. But I don't know that for sure.
Interesting.
So Subaru goes and visits Emilia. She's literally hiding underneath a sheet crying. And instead of being like, I'll take the trial for you, or you can do it, he basically just says, if you want to talk, I'm here to talk. At this point, she's taken the trial once and failed. And we know the first trial is viewing your past. So whatever she saw is freaking her out, and she's having a hard time. And she talks about how she was frozen in a crystal until Puck found her, and that Roswell had also come across her and offered to thaw everyone that was in that forest, because all these people that live there, though, these elves that are also frozen. And Roswell's like, hey, if you take the throne of the kingdom, I will be able to thaw all these people for you. And so that's why she's doing the royal selection. And she's like, oh, I'm so selfish for doing this. He's like, well, if you're doing it to help people, that's not technically selfish. The word selfish and greedy gets thrown around a lot in this anime. And I'm always like, is that though? I want what's best for everyone. You're so selfish. Is he?
And arrogant to think that you could get that.
Is this where she holds her hand? Anyway, she falls asleep. He goes to strangle her, but that's just to wake up a certain character who's been missing all season.
That's how you always wake up the watchful parent.
Yep. We get Puck showing up. Puck has been sleeping. He's like, I'm not really supposed to be here, and Subaru asks him for help. So when she wakes up, little tiny Puck is there. And he's having a hard time, but he basically says,
"Adorable Puck.
If you're gonna, you need your memories, and the thing that's holding them back is our contract." So he breaks the contract and will no longer be her spirit, and he disappears. Subaru checks on her, and she's having a hard time. This is where she has to hold my hand and stay by my side. And when she wakes up, he's gone, and she starts getting really upset. She's calling everyone a liar. Her mother was a liar. She says Mother Fortuna was a liar. Puck was a liar, and Subaru was a liar because he left her when he promised he wouldn't. And then the next day, when they try to find her, she's gone. The village is looking for her, and Garfield, who we need to talk about, starts looking for her and realizes that Ryuzu is also gone. Now, Garfield is a young demi-human man beast. We find out younger than we think, who has been randomly enemy or ally for the last couple loops of Subaru. You can literally say the same thing to him in different situations and get totally different reactions, and it freaks Subaru out. Like, wait, last time I said that, you were cool with it. Now you're all pissed. I don't know what to do. So that is that character. So Jeremy, I know Garfield, big favorite for you from this part. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean that's really the main reason why I enjoy this character so much, is that you really don't know what you're going to get with Garf, and this kind of intrigued me but bugged me at the same time before, because I couldn't understand why he was so wishy-washy. It doesn't even seem like wishy-washy. It's just that his values are not revealed completely to us. They're so gradually revealed that when Subaru says something in a certain context, that clashes with his values, and when he says it in a different context, it doesn't. But we don't know what those values are. And so during the rest of this arc, we get to see so much of his backstory and about what he saw in the trial when he took it, and what he thinks was going on versus what really was going on, and how he deals with that. His arc was really, really entertaining. And also, I mean, best fight scenes. This guy was awesome. He was awesome in the first half of this season, but in the second half, I mean, there's one fight coming up that just, oh man, that's probably my favorite fight that I've seen so far in ReZero. It was just, oh, it's fantastic.
If there's one word I could use to describe it, it was visceral.
Yes.
Absolutely visceral.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was like everything was at stake, you could tell, and the characters were going all out, and you don't normally get that in such a convincing way. Yeah, I guess I don't know. I haven't appreciated. There must be a 14-year-old angsty Jeremy down inside me somewhere that's saying, "This is what I wanted. This is what I remember. This was anime. Yeah," because I really resonated with this character.
Well, finding out he was 14 did make a lot of sense for why he might respond one way with another, in another loop. Because he's got baggage, but that we're going to get into, and from one moment to the next, who knows how he's feeling, because it is unresolved baggage, and it just kind of made him a bit more appealing, because you ended up feeling a lot of sympathy for his character and like rooting for him to resolve it. Anyways, yeah.
I agree with everything you guys said. Really getting that age number thrown out for him, and then that just contextualizing everything he's done and everything he does through that lens is like, oh.
Suddenly makes sense.
Also, he has one of my favorite. Well, he sets up one of my favorite lines. He does idioms, which Subaru says, "Yeah, when I was 14, I was doing idioms all the time. That's how you think you're cool. You say all these idioms." And he says one about no one is able to escape Reinhardt when he's pursuing you, or something like that. And Reinhardt being the redhead swordsman that's uber powerful from the first arc, and Subaru's like, that guy's still alive and he's already got an idiom about him? What the heck? I love that.
Yep.
Yeah. So he is now searching for Ryuzu Shima, who he calls Old She, which I'll probably use to refer to her, Old She, moving forward. Yeah. He's searching for her and he goes to the lab where the crystal is, where the original Ryuzu is encased in a crystal, powering the barrier. And Otto's there, and he's like, "What's up?"
Do we know that it's powering the barrier at this point?
Probably not, but we're in spoiler section, so it's fine.
Yeah.
I can't remember in the first half of season 1 if that has been said or not.
Yeah, because it's very explicit
can't
this
remember
side,
either.
but I don't remember it last side.
And then we jump over to Subaru finding Emilia in the graveyard. So there's the graveyard entrance, and that goes into the trial room. And then behind that is the one person buried in this what's called a graveyard. So I guess it's technically a tomb, but whatever, semantics.
There's no Draugr, so.
Yeah. So Emilia's there, and he says, we need to talk. So we get 2 big scenes. First, we get Otto versus Garfield. Now, Otto's very much outclassed in power level. But he takes a punch and he steals Garfield's crystal from him. Him and his sister both have the blue crystal, and one was given to Subaru from the sister, Frederica, who we'll get to. He starts chasing Otto, and Otto traps him in a hole, has bugs attack him, and we get the flashback that we had already mentioned. You know, Otto growing up as a kid, he can't understand anybody because all he can hear is animals screaming all the time, and it isn't until he's older that he even understands that they're speaking, they have language. And we just kind of see how he gets into trouble and ends up having to become a merchant. And I love watching him go through Subaru's story from another point of view. And I was like, is that how this loop went? He got caught by the witch cultists and they just happened, and Subaru told them to go rescue him because they were going to need him. I'm like, oh, is that how he got involved? Because we know the time when they rode next to the whale and he got killed. He pushed Subaru to his death. That's
why he's so thankful to Subaru as well.
Yeah, Subaru is technically his savior.
The Zotobug freak.
And he does eventually get run down, but he gets OP music playing, and he got me. I was like, I'm emotional about Otto. Never saw that coming. And then Rom joins the fight. She is the wild card of the situation because she technically works for Rosevere, but she's nice to Subaru generally. So they never know what team she's going to play for, but she joins in to help. And she kicks Garfield's butt. And he transforms into his giant tiger, were-tiger form, and she's still able to go toe-to-toe with him. But Otto wanting to help...
Fisticuffs. Yeah. Not like she's using magic on him. Like she's
martial arts kicking him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Otto makes himself bait and kind of ruins things. I forget what he says to make Garfield mad at him, but he gets attacked again. Then we jump over to Subaru and Emilia talking in the graveyard. And in the halfway through season 1, this couple had a fight. And we had talked about it, and I've even said, man, there were things said in that fight that I've heard or said in my own fights with my own spouse. And they did a frick again. So Subaru is saying, I love you. And she's like, I am worthless. Why would you say that? You're a liar. You told me you'd stay by my side. He's saying, you know what? You are a pain in my butt. you are weak. You're not doing the things you're supposed to do, but I love you anyway. I love you for how beautiful you are and all your legs and your skin, but also your determination, your kindness, and going in. And there's a point in this fight where he screams, "Because I love you," and I'm like, yeah, I've done that. I've had that fight. That's just such a normal couple thing to do to me. That this is again, it wasn't as epic as like the first one, but it had very much like the writing was so good on it. I really liked this scene and him telling he loves her, and then not moving his consent because he says, "If you don't want this, dodge," and he kisses her.
Yep.
And good for you, ReZero, because so many anime do not touch the L word,
Right.
because it might ruin the harem, or it might, unless it's explicitly a romance. Even then, they take forever. And kissing is almost never done in anime. I think in Japan it's more taboo, maybe to show people kissing. It's rare you see a couple kiss in anime. Super
this was
rare.
earned though, so
Yes.
well earned.
Your guys' thoughts on this? I've been.
I think one of the parts that really stuck out to me was when she goes, "It doesn't make sense that you believe in me because you love me," and like I've had that fight, and especially for the guy side to try and verbalize emotions as a logical reason for belief is they did a fantastic job with that, and him just like partially floundering, like, I'm trying to be supportive here and you keep pushing me, and so then he just goes all in. Yeah, you're a pain in the ass. It was believable. It felt good, and the resolution was so much better than the first time. Like, the first time was definitely just heart-wrenching, but this time it there was really real good resolution out of it.
I definitely appreciated how in this fight he said a lot of the things that I thought about Emilia. Like when he was describing all of the things that she needed to hear about where she needed to improve. Like don't just give her sweet nothings that are not going to be useful. And when he said that, I was like, yeah, okay, you see it then. You see it. I don't understand why this is best girl for you when you see all this. But hearing that he saw it and that he still, like, the fact that when he initially stated what his reasons for loving her were, the first thing he went to was all superficial. And after about 4 or 5 things, it started to go deeper into more meaningful things. And there certainly were those meaningful things. But I appreciated that. That was a touch that they didn't have to add. They could have gone a different way with this that would have been effective, but I don't think it would have matched everything that we've seen quite as well. And the difference between that first fight and this fight was just astonishing to me, because in the first fight, he made a serious mistake and he was being disciplined for it, basically, in the relationship. And in this situation, nobody's really made a mistake. It's more like just trying to feel out what the relationship is and how to move forward cooperatively. And so the dynamic is so different in both of these, both to start and how they portray this disagreement or even just coming to terms with what the next step is. They did such a good job with both of them. It's really cool. Very good writing.
Yeah, this felt like her last grasp of trying to reject his feelings as genuine. Because, like, she didn't want to reject him as a person. I think she likes him, but she didn't want to be loved. She didn't want someone to be on her side. And this was like a last floundering of trying to hold on to that emotion. And fortunately, Subaru was able to help her let go of that. and I loved it. It was perfectly placed and perfectly earned in the storytelling.
You guys have both touched on it, but I just really like that she's like, I'm not this perfect thing in your mind. He's like, no, you're flawed.
Yeah,
You are
exactly.
a flawed person. And I've said it to my kids, like, you don't love someone despite their flaws, you love someone and their flaws. And that's very much what he gets at. And it also, when Roswell later talks to her about, like, oh yeah, he buttered you up and got you, and she's like, no, he told me I was a pain in the butt, and he told me the truth, and that's why I cared.
Mm-hmm.
It went from waifu to partner.
So
Mm-hmm.
we've been jumping through characters because I'm trying to move us forward, but we need to stop and talk about some of them. Emilia, this is a great point. What are your guys' thoughts on the best girl, Emilia?
This is the first time I've been able to relinquish Rem as like ship for him. Because she's been so bland. She's been so one-sided, in kind of one note. Like she's kind of shown her strengths here and there throughout the series, but here, like, the character growth just exploded exponentially in these trials, and this moment, this fight, she's a real character for me. Like I've said in past episodes, like, I don't really like her. I don't really care about her. I think she's kind of boring. She stood her own, and she was right on par with all the other characters.
I agree. And I thought that they gave a really, really good explanation for why there was such a big character arc. Her memories. You know, she even said, what are you going to do if I'm not the same me that I was before I had these memories back? She knew that she was going to change because the memories were flooding back in. And boy, did she. Now, what I thought was really interesting is that a lot of the things that she did and she said were the same reasons that I thought Rem was a great character. You know, she actually put herself out there in defense of people. She openly vocalized value for Subaru. You know, she essentially was willing to sacrifice herself for him if necessary, and for all the people that were with her. And she really embodied this in the trial, but she also embodied it later during, you know, dealing with rabbits and stuff. But this was very impressive. But I'm at that point where I'm like, okay, so Rem has to be in a coma.
I knew that was coming. You hide her away for a whole season.
You gotta lock her up for a whole season, and then you have to gradually shift Emilia into kind of the same format that Ram had, so that she crosses over a little bit into a lot of those character qualities. And then, okay, yeah, all right, she's pretty cool.
I'm not even gonna address that. But obviously I've been a big Emilia fan since the beginning. But what I just really enjoyed was that, especially in this half of the season, she's almost the main character. Subaru is doing things, his arc is done, and this is Emilia's story. And I really like the idea that they're both main characters from this point going forward. Both have a lot of growing to do, working together. You know, not always agreeing. I think like really early on they had a disagreement, and Subaru says, "Yeah, we're not always going to agree on stuff," and they just moved right past it. I was like, "Cool, I love that." And getting her memories, her backstory. Obviously, I'm still a big fan of the character, but I just really enjoyed her taking center stage, and that was nice thing for the anime to do. I thought it was unique. All right. Outside waiting for them is Garfield. He's quite upset. He's covered in his own blood.
Covered in blood.
Had the crap kicked out of him. And Emilia is like, you know, she stands up to him, and Subaru's like, I got this one. And he goes to his big tiger form, and Subaru does Samak, which is the black cloud that disorients you. and then runs at him and stabs him with his crystal that he had from his sister. Except for it's not just a crystal anymore. It's Puck! And Puck sucks up some mana so to shrink the guy down to size. And then Subaru does one of my favorite anime moves ever, and Garfield comes up and throws a haymaker to his face, and Subaru just takes it. Swollen cheek, just driving his own face into it, and says
the tooth out too.
Yeah, he says the line like, "If you want to change, then that's your starting point right there. You don't have to have all this baggage. You can start changing the moment you are ready to change." It's like starting from zero, and it's very familiar to what a blue-haired maid had told him earlier. Like he's learning and growing. And then Subaru learns a new move. I didn't write down the move's name. He gives it a name.
Al Shamak or something like that.
No, the hand. It's
Yeah. I think that's what he screams, doesn't he?
No, he renames it something. Invisible Providence.
Invisible Providence. While he's passed out. There's something weird about that to me, that he's so focused on having special names for these.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Something about it is like, does that have a deeper meaning?
Well, he's taking it from unseen hand.
Right.
So unseen, invisible hand providence.
I get it. But he did the same thing with Returned by Death. He literally sat down and was like, okay, what do I call this? It has to have a very good name. Anyway, but it doesn't. Garfield gets knocked down, but he gets back up. But luckily, Pastrashy the dragon arrives and headbutts him into a wall, and the fight is won. And Subaru's like, "See, teamwork makes the dream work." And then he passes out. He wakes up in Emilia's lap. Garfield wakes up in Rom's lap. Now Garfield's in love with Rom. I know he's only 14, but he has a huge crush on her. And he's like, just because they beat me doesn't mean I'm suddenly just going to change my mind. She's like, yeah, but...
I love the difference here, because Subaru wakes up and Emilia starts like petting his hair and like, you did a great job kind of thing. Garfield wakes up and Rom's like, oh, you're awake? Good. Get off me. My feet are going numb.
She basically convinces Garfield that he needs to take the first trial again. We got a flashback of him taking it the first time, and he comes out and he smashes his head into the wall, which is why he has a scar there. But he relents and he goes and he takes the trial, and he sees a past of his mother leaving, except for this time he realizes the reason they start talking to him, the past figures, and they're like, yeah, I'm really leaving to go find your father. And he had been upset that she had left, but then he realized she had died. He had found her carriage crashed later, and which means he left
Landslide,
her.
Right?
Yeah, he left her, him and his sister behind for nothing, and that bothers him. That it was bad enough that she left, but then she didn't get anything out of it. And he always assumed she left to be happy, and that didn't even happen. So that's why he's so freakish about people leaving the barrier. And then to realize that she was going to come back. She was going to go find his father, and was planning to come back. It was only supposed to be a short trip.
Did you guys catch it as well that his sister said that she doesn't think the mother's dead?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
And also at this point, I don't trust you, ReZero, anymore. You tell me things, and I believe in you, and then another witch shows up, and I'm like, wait, what?
And then you hurt me again?
Yep.
So, yeah.
Excellent use of the unreliable narrator. Very, very good.
This is the thing, is like Garfield's kind of this cool character, but like sometimes he's bad guy, and all of a sudden you make me care like way more about him than I think I probably should.
Yep.
Because we find out why he's got that scar on his face.
Yeah, that's where his mother kissed him when she said goodbye, and he didn't want to ever feel it anymore, so he bashed his head in.
Yep. The good son.
So yeah, he decides he wants to be someone who can help those who need him. And he comes out and thanks Subaru and starts calling him boss, like a 14-year-old would. He's my new gang leader.
Yes.
And then so now, but he's like, yeah, I'm not doing the other trials though. I got my character resolution. I'm good. I don't want anything to do with this. So Emilia has to go in and face that first trial, and she tells Subaru she wants to talk about that kiss later. They'll have stuff to talk about. God, so good. And then she
Lots
goes
whispering bad things.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And when she gets into the trial room, it is literally wall to wall of Subaru's scribblings of pictures of Puck and I love you and you can do it and a lot of other stuff that I can't read Japanese, so I can't tell you what it all says.
Actually,
I
it's
love
not
how
written
it
in
lingers
Japanese.
on a few, and I'm like, I have no idea.
Oh yeah, that's right. It'd be written in her language, right?
Yeah.
That he knows how to write. Yeah. I definitely like the thumbs up that turns into a puck or a puck that turns into a thumbs up. There's a lot of fun stuff. And that's why he had left her bedside, even though he promised he wouldn't. He wanted to write supportive messages on the wall. And she goes into the trial and meets Kidna. And they have to walk through the illusion as it changes from Garfield's over to hers. So they just kind of wander the forest. And Kidna, not a fan of... does not think Emilia is best girl.
This
She
made
must be
me
a
wonder,
red-
like,
She's a red
hold
fan.
on, Echidna, you gotta reset your amusement park ride? Like, why is this taking so long to go from one vision to another?
Uh-huh.
She also calls her a witch's daughter, and Emilia declares herself the witch of she's the frozen witch.
Yes.
They then travel to. They're in Emilia's past in her forest village that the elves used to live in, and they go to what she calls the princess room, which is a room inside a tree where they used to lock her up when they didn't want her to see things. A little playroom to keep her safe. And
It's jail.
and
Baby jail.
she's taken care of by her aunt, whose name is Mother Fortuna, and she calls her mother a lot, but she actually has a mother and father who we get hints about, but we don't know who they are.
Well, the thing is, like, the anime makes it very clear these two are related because they look nearly identical, like, not only the way they dress, but also their facial features and eye color. But they make it very like, Mother Fortuna is constantly saying, oh, no, it's my brother where she gets these features from, not me. But we never meet mother or father, so...
Why does Puck call her his daughter?
I was so convinced that one of these elves was going to turn into Puck, and
I'm convinced, well, until I read the wiki, Puck is a reincarnation of Fortuna. Because they both call her Leah.
But Puck's a man with green eyes. I thought he was going to be Archie.
Reincarnation, buddy. Rules are changing.
I was back and forth. Yeah. And I'm like, maybe Archie and Fortuna merge into one spirit and they become Puck.
I am torn between it being Mother Fortuna or her father. I'm not sure which.
But yeah, so I'm actually pretty confused, and I kind of don't want to read the wiki because I kind of want it to be revealed later.
Surprise me.
Right?
Yeah.
A little spirit comes and visits her. We need to talk about Mother Fortuna, but I want to get to another character and talk about them in combination. So a little spirit comes and shows her how to escape, and then she goes to spy on the village where she's not supposed to do. And the witches cult is there, providing clothes and food and medicine to the elf people.
And no knives.
And no knives. They're super nice. And they're led by a young, handsome man named...
with green hair
named
and a cap.
Juice. And Mother Fortuna's talking to him. It's Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice.
And he's like this nicest guy ever.
Yep.
So Mother Fortuna and the big reveal of Stepdad Goose.
Yes.
Oh yeah, there is serious, like, even in this first scene of like, I like you so much kind of vibes coming from Betelgeuse to Mother Fortuna.
So what do you guys think of these characters?
Oh, loved them. Like, yeah, again, this show hurts me. I was so happy to watch Betelgeuse burn in the first season, and
Mhm.
after watching this arc, I was like, well, why did he have to turn bad guy?
Right. Yep.
No, the backstory was fantastic. It introduced a bunch of new characters, introduced some familiar characters, getting to know why Emilia is the way she is, but then also why she decided to have her. Well, I don't know if she decided that, but she agreed to have her memories locked away. Like, kind of puts a lot of her motivations into perspective. Just, yeah, a fantastic trial. Like, it was a cool way to do a flashback. Like, we've been on board with that this first trial is to discover your past and to like face your past. This was a clever way to do a long form flashback without feeling like it was I don't know, forced or anything, but like this was a part of the story that had to move forward. And I also liked that there comes a point where Amelia's like, no, we need to keep watching what's going on because I really care about Juice. And she's like, no, we're going over here now. The kid, no, she's like, nope, we gotta go see what you're doing now.
Yeah, I remember that there was a scene early on in this where Mother Fortuna was telling Juice that I'm sorry, but you can't see her because he's like, oh, the daughter is here. She's alive. She's like, yeah, she is, but you can't see her. I can't allow you to see her. And I was wondering, like, does he go nuts when he sees her? Is that the
God,
That's what I
catalyst?
thought.
When he starts crying, I'm like, oh my God, she made him.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Yes. And then that's exactly what, appears to happen is, he spots her in the woods and starts to kind of go nuts in his joy of being granted the privilege of seeing her, even though he's such a sinner. and and then he doesn't go crazy at that point. And I'm like, okay, I really got to know more about what's going on here. But no, they did a fantastic job.
Her mom and dad.
Huh?
Is Juice and Fortuna her mom and dad? I don't know.
No way.
No. But
No.
very much the stepfather and stepmother
Yeah.
role, or adoptive parents.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, definitely a parent
Like-
role, but not biological. No.
Like, I'm wondering why he had such reverence for Emilia. This was kind of weird.
My guess is when he says witch's cult, he's talking about Envy, Witch of Envy, and knowing that this is daughter of the Witch of Envy. What a privilege!
If that's who the mother is.
But he said church. He said he was a part of the church. He didn't say he was a part of a cult.
A cult. Maybe the church became a cult later.
Do cults call themselves cults?
That's a very good point. Oh, that's a good point. Okay. Yes.
But yeah, he also had the slothful thing in the box. So, I mean,
yeah.
Was
so
it
somehow
the envy cult or sloth cult? I don't know.
Well, we know that later it gets called sloth, and I don't know. I'd have to look it up, but they call it sloth in the wiki too.
I've looked up some stuff. I don't know what I can and can't answer at this point.
It's a very interesting web. But no, I thought the characters were very wholesome and sweet and tragic, of course, which you knew it was going to be tragic the moment that, you put together Emilia's failure the first time and her reaction to it, followed by the situation and the characters involved. But yeah, it's very good.
I really enjoyed Fortuna and I mean, this him appearing just blew my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Such a cool reveal. And so makes, like you said, Jason, it's so tragic now we think back. And now I'm wondering, did Betelgeuse ever see her? Did he ever react to her? She was the target that he was trying to get to, and he would have known that. But did he ever actually see her and have any reaction to her that I just didn't get the context of until now?
Yeah, they fought in the village.
Right. Did he? And I can't remember what he said or anything. ReZero does that. It has people say things without context that much later they're like, oh, by the way, these two characters knew each other, and that's why this was
I'm
said.
going to have to go back and watch that fight. Oh, my goodness.
That's what I was thinking. Replay.
But yeah, and just the tragedy of him is fantastic. And Mother Fortuna is a great motherly character, and their relationship was adorable. That they clearly wanted to be in a relationship but had roles. But the biggest thing I got from this, especially this scene, when they're like, "Oh yeah, I just want to know she's healthy and well." Yes, she is, but you know how to see her. Well, that's all that a sinner like me can expect. Who is Emilia?
Yeah.
That's not just a witch's daughter you're talking about. That's like a Christ-like figure. Like, is the savior born? That's how he's acting. I'm like,
Yep.
oh my gosh. And then, but when he does see her, everyone's like, ah, well, cat's out of the bag now. Might as well hang out.
Right.
Yeah, that was really weird.
Yeah. So Emilia ends up running back and pretending to spill ink so no, she doesn't get caught, that she can sneak out. We get another scene of.
Did they get found because he saw her?
No, because he knows she's there.
Right, but he hadn't seen her yet, and then he sees her, and then they get found.
I don't think so.
Anyways, I'm just thinking. Go ahead.
I do have a question, and that is, there's a moment where he says, even Mother Fortuna is like a child to me because he's so old. He's human.
Nope.
How is he this old?
He's not a human.
He's not?
He's a spirit.
What?
And he just
What?
inhabits bodies. That's why he can jump bodies. That's his thing.
Oh, that's right.
Wait.
He can jump bodies.
I thought that was something that he got from the witch. I didn't think that was an innate thing of him before.
The 10 fingers are part of his witch power, but the ability to jump bodies is just because he is a spirit.
So this is just one of the bodies. Even this good guy was just
Yeah.
So the
This is
spirit got
the one
corrupted.
he's been in for a while.
So
So
it's
the
the spirit that lost
spirit-
his mind. Oh.
One thing that kind of bugs me is that we don't know that officially, that he is technically a spirit in a body. Even like Beatrice, they're like, oh, she has a mother, but no, she's a spirit. And I'm like, I don't know what a spirit really is in this world. It's
Yeah.
just they kind of are very loose with the term, and Beetlejuice is not human. And again, that I had mentioned back in the review, that's one of my nitpicks. He should be basically done in this story, right? We've gotten his flashback. He's dead character. How come at this point the anime hasn't told us he is a spirit? It is implied because I've known you longer, and this is what I look like right now, and the fact that he could swap bodies. You can kind of put those pieces together, but I had to look at the wiki to find out. Oh, this guy's a spirit. He's not human. Now that just makes so much click. Why is the anime not telling me this? And it's better to have to put the pieces together than to have like an exposition dump that's just ugh. But I was a little frustrated that there's stuff like that I'm like, that should kind of be information you've let me know that I didn't have to detective my way to find, or because I bet I just feel like if I had read the light novels at this point in the story, I would know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I'm guessing, and please correct me if I'm wrong in comments, but yeah. A frustration I have that's a tiny little nitpick and does not ruin my enjoyment, because actually when I did find out, I'm like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
All right. We jump forward in time to her sneaking out again. And the spirits take her to see something, and it's a door in a field in the forest. It's the magic seal, and she's not supposed to see that. And then when she's going back, she runs into Juice, and he starts crying, and she comforts him.
Whose little cute behind is that sticking out?
Yeah, he thinks he just runs across this cute kid in the road, and he's like talking to her, and he's like, wait. My God.
It's you.
Literally.
No, and the way
yeah.
the reverence he gives her, you're right. It's very much like I just ran into the Pope as a Catholic. Like this is the most spiritual moment I've ever experienced.
Like you said, we all have the same thought separately, independently, that this is gonna break his brain. He's gonna start biting his fingers. His brain's
He's gonna say his
tremble.
brain trembles.
Oh.
But no, he just after he gets done crying, like, hey, let's play, little girl. And they start chasing each other.
Echidna now is officially starting the trial, so that we jump to when all three of them are just walking down the road together. They're having a play date, and Emilia's teasing them because they clearly like each other. And then this character shows up, and his name, we've already met him once. He's the Archbishop of Pride, Regulus Corneus. He was
when
the guy.
I saw his shoes, I was like, no. I
This
knew.
guy took Crush's arm off in the beginning of the season. We don't get a lot of time with him, so I don't want to spend too much time with him. I just want to say that I love a character who's perpetually offended. He's like Twitter embodied. He's just like, you're gonna fight me 2v1? That's so rude. And oh my God, you guys are talking to each other in front of me, even though I'm right here, just ignoring that I exist. Like everything you do, even his boss, who's like, hey, you need to calm down. Oh my God, I can't believe you would say that to me. Die.
He kills her.
That's beautiful. That's a really fun. That was just such a fun trait. And the way I'm not able to mimic his speech pattern, but the way he explains how offended and what you have done wrong to offend him, and because he's so great that he's there, was very
even
very
his facial expressions are perfect on that.
But before we get into what's going on there, we have a jump cut over to old Shi telling about the time she took the first trial and she saw the original Ryuzu's memories. And then she tells the story of how Ryuzu lived in Sanctuary and Echidna and her daughter would come to visit. Again, the word daughter very loosely used in this anime, so I don't know technically what it means. Because, Puck is Emilia, and that's not her daughter, but he calls her that. Anyway, and her and Beatrice eventually became friends, I suppose. So that is now the good time to talk about Miss Beatrice, the librarian spirit girl, because she shows up in this flashback, becomes good friends with Ryuzu, and clearly is a big fan of Echidna. So what did you guys think of Beatrice?
God, I love this character. She embodies everything that is hilarious about a little girl that is obviously much older than a little girl. Because she's just got this arrogance about her, but she is kind-hearted. But she'll let you know that you're bugging her.
Yeah. She'll help you fold the laundry, but you will know how put out she is.
Or, can you teach me these books? She's like, oh, fine. You don't have to. I said I would. No, it was really neat to see her kind of in her element and that she didn't really change much from the first season. Like, if you compare this flashback, how her mannerisms are and what she's doing, and then compare her to her actions and stuff in the first season, she's the same person. She's, she cares about people that are good to her, and she always acts put off, but she, she's a kind spirit. And
it's like she doesn't want to care, but she does.
Right. But she looks no different. And, and I think that's a product of her being a spirit. It just makes me wonder, did Echidna create her?
I don't know. Don't know.
Seems highly likely since we know Echidna created Ryuzu.
Right.
That something's amiss there. I don't see Echidna having a husband and them having a kid.
Well,
Did
and Echidna's
Echidna
been on this.
create
know,
Ryuzu?
Yeah,
At least
for her
most of the
immortality
reuses.
experiments.
Well, oh, you mean the clones? Yeah, I thought you were talking about the original girl.
I thought she made the original too, but I'm not sure.
Because the original's a spirit as well, right?
I don't believe so. I think
don't
the
know.
original's a half elf, but I'm not sure.
Huh. But yeah, this whole experiment thing was her, trying to get immortality, and so I think Beatrice was part of the plan and just never got a chance to enact it.
But is that true? That's where I got a little bit confused in this situation because I'm like, okay, you told us it was for immortality, but the people that told us that were the people that were making sure that the barrier doesn't come down. And so how do you repurpose something that's for immortality into a barrier? And then when you see the flashback and you start to learn about what was actually coming for them and that they'd been preparing this barrier and they were planning to do it without sacrificing this girl, and it was to protect them and this sanctuary from this entity that was coming to get them. And I'm like, so was immortality ever really her objective? I just don't know.
I don't think we know enough about the dude that comes to find them. But go ahead, Troy. What were you about to say?
Echidna is a character who is a horrific sociopath who also cries and seems to very genuinely care about people. And so I'm so confused about her. I have no idea what I'm dealing with when I'm talking with her. I kind of said that about the witches though in the first thing, that maybe they aren't evil, but just everything they do is just tainted, even behind good intentions.
I don't think so. So all the flashbacks we see with Echidna from Roswell's point of view, from Beatrice, from Ryuzu's, all of that put into the context of what we know about her from the first part of this season felt very calculated actions to get to her goals. She's constantly manipulating the people around her so that she can be that greedy, I want all the knowledge, and the only way I'm going to be able to experience the most amount of knowledge is if I live forever.
Then tell me why she cried in the second trial. That blows my. That's probably one of the biggest blowing my mind scenes I've seen, and I can't wrap my head around it.
She in Emilia's second trial, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. Second trial.
It's the present, and Emilia is seeing basically her. We'll get to it, but it's basically I can have a happy life.
The picnic.
Right, and I choose not to do it. And thank you for showing this to me. And Echidna is openly weeping, and then refuses to come back for the third trial afterwards.
Well, she also mentions how much she despises her.
Literally says it while she's crying. I hate you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if those are tears of anger, but I don't know because the anime doesn't tell us why she was crying. But my thought is, she's so frustrated and so angry at Emilia for who she is, but I don't know.
Maybe. One of the things that I was really confused me is if the witch killed her or if that guy killed her, why is she so dignified in a dress in that tomb powering a spell to maintain the barrier?
Nobody killed her.
If you're consumed by the witch of envy, you seem very much intact.
Right, which means she voluntarily put herself there to sustain this shell. Now, if she survived that, she could have fled. And she could have remained alive, and as long as you're alive, you have the option to continue gathering knowledge. So I don't understand, and granted, we don't have all the we saw what he did to Roswell.
Hold on, guys. We're touching on stuff that's also super coming up in the future. We're supposed to be talking about Beatrice. Our listeners are probably like, I wonder what Jeremy. We are way off tangent. It's stuff we need to talk about, so I don't fully want to stop us either. but we need to talk about it. But I think we need to get to it later when
Okay.
we're discussing those
Okay.
story points.
Jeremy,
So,
what do you think of Beatrice?
Jeremy, what do you think of Betty?
I love this character. I loved this character in the first season. I can't remember for sure, but I think I may have picked her as a favorite character in one of the yeah, I did, didn't I? I love this character. She is adorable. She is a little brat. And she's this way back in time. Like you said, Jason, she really hasn't changed much. And I think that says so much about her as a character. And Subaru does point this out later, you know, she's stuck in an empty book waiting for instructions on who to become. So she hasn't changed. And it fits. It makes sense. And I remember that in the last when we watched the first half of this season, when she was at the very end, Subaru sees the black book and he's like, "What? Why do you have that?" And she's like, "The book, it tells me what to do. The book, it tells me," right? And we were all wondering, like, is she a witch's cult member? You know, so many questions. And just seeing the way that they tied these threads together, the way that they explained her history, the way they explained her relationship with Roswell, even just her interactions with Roswell after everything goes down in the last couple episodes was just, there's so much depth to it. There's so much consistency of character. One of the things that was fascinating me was when she did not want him to rescue her because he would not admit to or commit to what the book decided for her future. She wanted to still live by the book, and he was saying, "No, I'll do everything that person does, but I refuse to be the person in that book." And
Which,
so,
come to find out, there's no person in the book. It's just the
yeah,
last instructions Echidna verbally gave her.
exactly. He's not even in the book, or the person, exactly. And so just seeing how she's very, very stubborn, and they just, I don't know, they really followed through with this character, and I was satisfied with the direction that they took her, because in the end, when she's finally able to kind of relax as a party member, you might even call her a harem member, because you know you have Rem and you have her, who are now both saying that he's their number one, even though they're not his number one. So it is kind of becoming a harem.
Mm-hmm.
Even in that situation, like it's not bothersome, irksome, or irritating to me, because it seems like she's there not for romantic reasons, but for support reasons and for
And her
adventure
power
reasons.
level is ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah,
Just saying.
Yeah. So again, absolutely love this character.
I also like the lolly.
Somebody's gonna clip that.
Oh, if only we had that many listeners who cared.
Right.
I think there was something you guys touched on that I wanted to say, but forget it. All right, we go back to the first trial. The Regulus, he's like, "Hey, here's the witch I'm working for. It's the Witch of Vanity, Pandora, who we've never met before." Because we just assumed that there's a witch for every deadly sin, but vanity's not a deadly sin, which means every rule I assume doesn't matter. I'm an idiot. I thought it was young Echidna. I was like, oh, okay, this is
did too.
early Echidna, and nope, just another witch that I didn't know existed. Cool.
And also not his, like, which person he belongs to.
I don't think the archbishops belong to witches. I think they have their power in them and are serving the witch cult, and the witch cult serves Satella, so I assume Pandora is also trying to help Satella, but I don't really know that because we met Satella in the last half and she wasn't nothing what we expected, so I don't know.
Nope.
I'm an idiot.
Well, I was about to say, like, there seems to only be one witch cult, but there's multiple witches, but I guess they're all consumed by envy, so yeah. Anyways.
And Pandora wants that big door open, and that's what they're here for. So that Fortuna and young M run away, and Juice takes them on himself, and he ingests the invisible
Sloth.
hands. Yeah, he ingests Sloth basically.
Yeah.
And Pandora's even like, "You are now the Archbishop of Sloth," and he's like, "I don't want to be that. I'm just helping my friends."
And I'm going to
And
stop you.
so now he has invisible hands, and he's able to hurt Pride, but Pride comes right back, and then Pride is
I
unhurtable.
love how he hulks Pride like a couple times, and he's just so offended that he attacked him. Like, how dare you
attack me when I'm standing here, not ready to be attacked?
He even snaps his neck, and Pride turns his head back around against the force. Crazy.
There's a really touching scene where Fortuna gives young Emily to Archie and is like, I'll always be with you. You are my daughter. Not literally, despite what might be what Troy had written in his notes, thinking, "Oh, that's a big revelation." Not really. They need to use the words literally and figuratively when they're talking in this anime. Anyway, she gets into Archie. Archie and Emily run through the forest, and he gets hit by a mob beast, which is burning his leg up with like lava. So he freezes off his leg, and then tells her to run off, and then he just burns up and dies. I'm like, oh, he's gonna like go Super Saiyan. Nope, he just dies. He's just burning up. Yep.
And didn't they say it was a disease, not lava?
Look,
I guess that's how they visualized it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it did look like lava. It looked like he was burning.
So young M runs away, and then she's like, maybe I could help people if I go to that. If they want that door, maybe I could just give them the door. And the spirits show her, so she goes to the door. Meanwhile, Fortuna has come back to help Juice, who has lost an arm to Pride. But then Pandora tells Pride to chill out, man, and he gets really offended, and he decimates her. He obliterates her from existence,
Literally in the dust.
But then she just comes right back, and she puts him in the ground, and then she makes it so he was never there. So Juice has his arm back.
This moment sent shivers down my spine. I have there are very few anime that like surprise me like that. I was like, oh, she's very powerful and not to be messed with. Oh my god, she can affect reality.
Juice and Fortuna try to battle her, and then we go back over to young Emily. She's at the gate, and Pandora's there waiting for her, and she's like, hey, I would stop hurting everyone, and we'll stop attacking the village if you would please just open this up. And at first, young Emily's going to do it, and she even sees a key just start appearing in her hand that only she can see, because she is the key. But she's like, I promised Fortuna I wouldn't, so I won't. And then Fortuna shows up, and she starts killing Pandora over and over. But but Pandora sometimes makes it look like it's Emilia who's getting killed because she has illusion magic too, and she's crazy. And then she's like, look, she won't open the door because of you. Just have her go open the door, and this will all be over. So Fortuna goes over to Emilia, and she tells her how proud she is of her for keeping her promise not opening the door. And then Juice shows up to save the day, and he attacks Pandora, and he spears her. And it's not Pandora, it's Fortuna, and she dies in Emilia's arms. And Juice goes insane, killing the love of his life. And I watched this scene in English dub and Japanese sub. Both are great, but the Japanese voice actor, the way he transformed his voice from the Beetlejuice we know to from Juice here sent chills down my spine. Some of the best voice acting, the way he just gets that rasp as he just goes on and on and on. And then Pandora's whispering in his ear, like, what you did for love. So what you did wasn't wrong. For love. And that was all he needs to go insane. He is officially a bad guy. But
one interesting thing I found, like normally in these kinds of situations where there's a calm bad guy trying to convince somebody to do their bidding, and they continually refuse. The bad guy tends to get more and more irritated and maybe even starts yelling. It was chilling watching Pandora never change her demeanor this entire scene. Like, from beginning to, like, when she shows up to when she exits scene, it's the same calm, calculated demeanor, and it's just chilling.
She's fully in control. Yeah.
Yeah. But she never got the door open, which was interesting.
Which doesn't seem to even bug her that much. She
No.
asked Emilia, okay, now that she's dead, I guess you don't have anyone to keep a promise to. You want to open the door?
Too soon?
And Emilia just starts going, die. And
That was
giant ice
awesome.
blocks destroying her Pandora over and over, but it doesn't matter to Pandora. She can just undo dying.
And it's amazing how the whole time between every death, she's saying, wait, but I just wanted to, but you see, we could, well, are you finished yet? It was awesome.
Meanwhile, frost is starting to spread out from Emilia's body, and we learn that the person who encased her in ice and froze her entire village is in fact herself in this fit of rage, because she's an insanely powerful magic user. Yeah. And as she's being sealed up, Pandora's like, I'm just gonna go ahead and seal those memories away from you so that this doesn't get in the way, and I guess I'll see you in the future and we'll try this again.
Right.
And then her and Betelgeuse just walk away and off into the forest as everyone else freezes. Yeah. I gotta figure out where we are in my notes.
Lovely story.
You've passed the first trial.
Yep, thank you. Echidna tells her, you said she has passed the first trial. Because when she asked her, like, can you accept your past self? And she's like, I don't regret what I did. I was doing it to try to help. I did what Mother Fortune asked me. I didn't know. And I do plan on saving these people. And Echidna's like, you're so freaking selfish. Is she? And then she's like, well, I still have the other two trials. And Echidna's like, yeah, those aren't going to be hard for you. If you can get over this, what does that matter?
Yeah, she was so upset. She was like, oh, you're going to be easy. I hate you so much.
They're not even trials now.
And she does take it after she gets out. She is crying. Meanwhile, Subaru and Otto and Garfield go and confront Roswell, and they're like, hey, dude, this would be a perfect time for you to surrender because we are doing awesome. And then we get a flashback of Roswell. So it is time to talk about this character. Me and Jason's favorite. He's just so evil yet so charming at the same time and weird. Jason, what do you think of Roswell?
This was like huge. Like, this is what I've been craving for all season one, was just not just more insight about him and who he is, but like his goals, like what they mean to him, and like, is he good guy, bad guy? It's interesting because his entire motivation doesn't necessarily make him a bad guy. It's just how he goes about it.
You're a bad
That's
guy.
usually the case.
You are a bad guy.
Right? Yeah, I love his motivation. I love that he's basically kind of unlocked the way for immortality, but not in a good way. It's
So that's like, okay, maybe you are fully evil. That is dark.
right. I mean, at least he keeps it in the family. I think his first, because of his speech patterns, I think his first victim was the dude that attacked them. I think that's where he got his power.
I disagree. I think that's where he got his clothes.
I think that's why he dresses like, the way he does is he's like, oh, that was a good look.
But yeah, he completely different character. this time around because he goes from this mysterious background benefactor to, oh yeah, you've been living in my house because, well, you're a means to an end, and I'm willing to sacrifice literally everyone here.
Uh-huh.
He's just my favorite character because of how complicated he is, but his end reasons don't feel that evil. He's just going about it in a really terrible way, but his end goal would bring back a great evil. So it's really complicated, and I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to like whether or not Echidna is actually truly evil. Like when she says, "Oh," she says, "Sometimes I'm a person who does a lot of I'm an evil person who sometimes does good things." Yeah. Is what she says, right? And isn't that what we all are? So I don't know. But
we all identify with that.
Yeah. But Roswell, fantastic. I love this guy. He is a great character. I love the way he talks, have since season 1 when we were first introduced to him. The way he dresses is just hysterical and fascinating to me because it's like, I always wondered, why do you dress like that? Why do you put on clown makeup? You're not the Joker. What is this to you? You are the lord of an area of a feudal land. Why do you behave like this? Nobody else is doing this. What is your problem? So getting a glimpse at his baggage and starting to understand, just what's motivating him to do these things was really nice. Also, we mentioned it in passing before with Garf. The same thing happened as it does with Roswell, where when confronted with a situation where these characters have to decide whether they're going to continue their course or whether they're going to switch sides and surrender or join the enemy as they see it, right? Garf says, why would I do that? You got to give me a good logical reason. But in the end, you could reason with him and convince him pretty easily. Roswell does the same thing, and then he's like, yeah, no, I don't care what you're reasoning. You can't convince me. Because you see, we're opposites. The things you think are good reasons to do things, I think it's the exact opposite. Those are bad reasons, and this over here is a good reason. So I loved that. And then they even followed that through later and came back to the same situation and how he would honor things having lost, because obviously he's going to lose. This is about Subaru and Emilia winning, not him. But yeah, I love this character. I was shocked by how strong he was too.
Even though he loses, the fact that they don't defang him, he is still a problem for Subaru in his very own specific way. Even though he's on their side, he's also a gun to Subaru's head constantly, always. And I love that. Like, okay, cool. He's not Vegeta. He's not just, okay, I guess I'm fighting for Earth now. He is, I'm fighting for Earth, but I will blow up Earth if I don't like how we're winning.
I think he even says that too. He's like, I will sacrifice everybody.
That is, well, because he's telling Subaru, I still have a goal. You're still gonna get me to that goal, and I know how to make you reset.
Yep.
So that probably one of my second favorite parts of this whole anime was just like my jaw dropped. Like, okay, I guess you're kind of on the team. Jeez. But yeah, he's great for all the reasons you guys have said. And I really love this whole, especially the second half, but this whole season has a theme about love and about the different kinds of love. And ReZero even has explored it earlier about possessive love with Subaru in that big fight with Emilia, versus selfless love. Subaru has embraced selfless love with Emilia. I have got your back. I am here to help you, whatever is best for you, not in the way I want, in the way that best helps you, even if it's not what's best for me or I fully agree with it. Meanwhile, you have character like Roswell, who's also obsessed with love, but it's possessive love. I have to have her back, and everything will burn in my way to get it. And how we see the kind of the good guys and the bad guys being separated by the way they choose love. Beatrice will choose selfless love here at the end, and she'll be on the team. But then even, we have Juice, who's went crazy because of love. Love is just messing with so many characters here, and I love the way they explore that. And that's not something you usually see. Usually, love is love, and love is great. LOVE, always good. And this says, yeah, there's a dark side to that, a really, really dark side. You have to be careful.
When you pointed back to that fight they had and mentioned that Subaru did experience possessive love, something popped into my head. Subaru hasn't lost Emilia. I wonder what he would be like if he did and wasn't able to reset in time to save her. I don't know if that's even a possibility given the way that the systems work, but if it were, would he become
he lost
as
her
crazed?
once, but then reset.
Right, but if he couldn't reset,
right,
would he become as crazed as Roswell, I wonder? Because the kind of possessiveness Roswell has is really something that kicks in when you can't have something. So it just makes me curious. I hadn't thought of that until you mentioned that.
But I mean, we see it with Satella. We see selfless love with Rom. It's really fun to when I realize, like, man, a lot of these characters are in love, and love is really directing a lot of character choices. I'm like, but it's really showing the two sides, and they're kind of at war with each other in this whole story. I just really like that exploration. Okay, so we get a trip through his backstory before he gives his counterpoint to Subaru and the others. After throwing up, he made out with Echidna. No, she sucked his mana out because he used to make him sick. This, of course, was his first life, and then he had gone to study under her at Sanctuary. That's where he knew Beatrice from. That's where he met Ryuzu. And then the man, he's the devil of melancholy. His name is Hector. Was coming. They had to create a barrier to stop him. They didn't have time. Ryuzu had to be the sacrifice, but she volunteered. And then he went and fought this guy to buy time. He just got the floor wiped with him.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, what did he say? I've crushed every bone in your body and I've turned your organs to liquid.
And then Echidna steps in. But then we see in the flashback, Beatrice and Ryuzu go to the crystal, and Beatrice doesn't know what's going on. She was just told to take her to the crystal room, but Ryuzu's like, okay, I'm going to go into the crystal and power the barrier, and we get this big goodbye scene. And this is the only time I was like, I think I'm good on flashbacks, and I don't know if I care enough about Ryuzu for how long they're taking to make this goodbye. And I felt a little bad about it. It's literally the only time I was like, maybe go a little faster here. Just my personal opinion.
Can we go back to the story?
Yeah. Which we then do, which is Roswell telling... First, he calls out Otto, concerns him because he never saw Otto coming, which we already talked about. And then he yells at Garfield, like, oh, you just switched sides so easily. You suck. And Garfield's like, no, I feel quite good about my decision. And then telling Subaru, like, I'm never going to change. This is 400 years of lunacy you're looking at.
I've got too much time to this. Let it go now.
And calls him out for, like, oh, yeah, you gave a pep talk to Emilia? You mean you manipulated her to be the way you wanted her to be? Is that any different from what I've done to you and to everyone else? We are literally the same guy. And Subaru's like, well, you know what? I actually believe in Emilia, so... and they leave. But this was just
Roswell keeps saying this. He keeps repeating, we're the same person, or we have the same ideals, or that we're very similar in our goals. I don't remember. The only person to dispute that was Emilia, because I don't remember Subaru ever disputing that.
Subaru's like, yeah, technically I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and I found it interesting that it was Emilia that stood up for Subaru, and it wasn't Subaru going, no, I'm not like you. He's like, no, I'm kind of a bad guy too.
Well, I mean, it's a power, and it's all in how you use it, right?
So Subaru had hoped that this would prevent the mansion attack, but now he has to deal with the mansion attack. And Garfield's like, well, I'll go. And he's like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, I can leave this place anytime I want. What? Yeah, I'm a half-blood. I can leave. And then he gets these magic gauntlets that I have no idea what they do exactly. They make him.
Yeah, we've never seen these before.
He
I
keeps
don't
saying
think.
it makes the best defense as an offense, and it makes me a shield. But it somehow powers him up, and he's like, "Yeah, I got these. We'll go." And they jump in Otto's wagon.
Do they power him up though? Are they just metal gauntlets?
I don't know. It's a magical anime. I'm assuming it's enchanted of some kind.
Same.
It didn't seem so, but yeah. Oh, anyways, not important.
Yeah.
They go off to the mansion. Rom goes and sees Emilia come out and gives her an update on what's going on, and then asks her to save Roswell. Now, we do need to talk about Rom. While we miss her sister dearly, she has a huge moment in this, and also some stuff that confuses me. But what do you guys think of Rom?
She was always the background sister with witty comments and cool moments. She shined really well in this side, and I thought her motivations made sense. The reveals we get just really wrap into all her actions through season 1 and season 2, and make a lot of sense for why the revelation that she has a sister is not that big of a deal to her, because she's got other goals going on. And that I love her. She's got this goal of, I'm going to save Roswell. I thought that was fantastic. And like her way about going about it was very Rom. But she said something, and I'm not sure if we said it in pre-show or if we said it earlier, but I love that she picked up on, she couldn't pinpoint that it was Subaru returning by death, but she picked up that there were certain moments when Subaru would act a particular way with a particular confidence, and she's like, we do what he says. His timing is impeccable. Yep. when he's a certain way, and it always works out. And it's interesting that it wasn't just Roswell that picked up on this, but it was also Rom.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy, what did you think?
Oh, Ram's a great character. Ram. Meh. She's a great character.
Ram.
Yeah. Where's Ram? No, she's a fantastic character on her own. Really enjoyed both the conversation and the fight between her and Roswell. What I really want to celebrate, though, is that in season 1, I guessed that it was Roswell that took her horn. I guessed that it was Roswell that took out her village, and he actually did admit it. So I was like, yes, I was right. So, yeah, yay! Super happy about that.
Did he ever say why he wanted them?
It's in the book.
It's in the book. That's all it was.
That's right.
Yeah, I keep asking myself, why did Roswell do this? And I realized, because it probably was in the book. That's almost always his purpose.
He just reads it and makes it real. But there was one moment in this fight where I was like, oh no.
We're not in a fight.
We're not in the fight yet.
We're not in a fight. We're just talking about a character.
Well, that's really where she
Jeremy.
shines for me, was the fight.
Like you've never done this podcast before.
I know.
I really.
Let's jump to the end.
It's also getting late for a lot of us too.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Rom is a great character. I really enjoyed that she got to be fleshed out. Probably the best part about her is that there is a difference between. We kind of talked about it in the last episode about Mario the Patriot. There's a difference between I am loyal to a person and I am loyal to a cause, and we hadn't known this up until this point, that she is not loyal to this cause. In fact, she's like, I thought your cause was insane and stupid from the moment I've heard it, but I'm loyal to you. And that was really cool to have fleshed out. And again, that there's a difference between just loyalty and loyalty to ideals and stuff. And she's doing everything she can to help him in the way that she thinks is best for him, not for what he wants. Through his goal. And good for her.
I love that she will not give up Barasu. This is perfect.
Yep. All right, so they go to the mansion. Roswell then goes up to Emilia, and he's like, "Good job, you're totally doing this." I feel so bad for you. God, the world's gonna end. This is all you're gonna be your fault. You really suck, but good job. Good job. I'm on your team.
He's such a passive aggressive jerk.
And Rom had asked Emilia, "Can you please save Roswell? And by winning the throne, that will help me save him." Anyway, he goes off to start the blizzard that's going to call the White Rabbit so that everyone can die. And Rom goes and is like, I'm curing you of your madness. I'm taking out that tome." And he's like, "Dear, you're not strong enough to beat me." And she's like, "Yeah, but I have this crystal, and guess who's inside? It's Puck. He's back again." Puck showing up is always just great for some reason. This half.
Yep.
Puck's like, "Now it's 2v1. I think it's an equal fight. Let's go." And they do have this big fight. Back at the. Yep. Back at the mansion, the scene where Petra runs into Elsa happens. Frederica saves her. Petra's running around trying to find Beatrice, and then starts crying and calling for Subaru. And he walks in, and he's like, "I'm here. Sorry about being late." Very hero moment. And then Garfield joins the fight against Elsa, and he's like, "I'll take her on. You go get that girl named Rem, and you get her out of there. I'll fight her." And I'm just gonna run through this whole fight because we're jumping through back and forth between Emilia's stuff and this mansion battle. So let's just stick to the mansion.
Yeah, I'll just one thing I wanted to point out. I love that her partner shows up way early because the town evacuated. So she's like, "Well, got nothing better to do."
Yep.
Melee, the mob beast operator, who Frederica ends up having to fight on top of a giant hippo.
Yeah, which is the first time we've seen that, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think we would remember the hippo.
Yeah.
Was it just me, or did anyone else find it weird that when the mobbies would scream, it wasn't an animal scream, but it was clearly some dude with some voice modulation into a microphone? It's like, that doesn't really sound like all that scary.
Yep.
The Elsa and Garfield fight. Jeremy, I know you absolutely love it. It's awesome. Every time he hits her, she heals instantly, which I don't know if we knew that about her. That
we did not know this. We did not know that she is a vampire, or at least has the qualities of one.
He literally is like, "You're a vampire," and she's like, "Oh, you figured it out." They have this big battle. He's mostly on par with her, but as she points out, that doesn't matter because every time he hits her, she just heals from it, and he grows tired and weaker. And eventually, the fight with Frederica and Maisie spills into each other, and then he's like, "Oh, this is your sister," and Elsa's like, "Yeah, I guess it is." Again, I have no idea if that's literal or figurative at this point. With ReZero, you just don't know anymore.
You really
don't. So it's a sibling battle. The hippo charges him. He turns into his tiger form, and he twists its head off.
Yes.
And then Jeremy, why don't you take us through the final fight of Elsa and Garfield?
Oh my God, it's crazy because she is just dirty talking him the whole time about how, "Oh, I love it. Oh, you're the best fight I've ever had." She's just getting off on this fight completely, and she's psycho. We know this about Elsa. She likes to cut people open and look at their bowels. Okay, this is the kind of person
got her backstory.
Yeah. And we learn about her backstory, and that's kind of what happened to her because she was a little girl that would steal from everybody and do bad things. She even said it herself. And then somebody caught her, was going to rape her, and she gutted him. And that's when she officially went nuts.
But it was really cold, and the guts were super warm, and she thought that was awesome.
Yep. And she never forgot it. Never forgot it. Yep. And so she's doing this and everything, and he's just like essentially telling her to shut up and that he's going to kick her butt. And just the way that so many times he hits her and there's like chunks of her missing. It's like I'm watching a different anime because there's like a chunk of her head is just gone. And then she stands back up a minute later and it's like, whoa. Right. And so he leaps on her at this point and bites into her neck. Right. And you're thinking, oh man, well, what's she going to do? She going to kick him off or something? No, she gets crazy eyed, opens her mouth and bites into his neck. And so the two were just doing that for like, I don't know, 10 seconds. And I'm just sitting here going, what the heck did this fight just turn into? This is so weird. I've never seen this before. It's crazy. And then he leaps off of her, and as she's like just kind of savoring the moment of how she understood that was weird, um, she looks up and he's holding the body of the hippo and drops its ass right on her, and she gets crushed. Like, it's just so good.
Not just
Such a
crushed,
good
like you
fight.
see her body like splintering apart into flesh as it comes
Yes.
down on her. It's so gross.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's just so impressive, though. Like, this fight just, I don't know, it was shocking. It was shocking to me. And you said it right, Jason, earlier when you said it's
Yeah,
visceral.
visceral.
Like, you just,
Yeah.
you're just shocked every moment of like, what did they just do? Oh my God. It's like these people had no holds barred. Good stuff.
Meanwhile, Subaru goes to Beatrice and he's like, "Hey, I'm taking you out of here. We're getting out." And she's arguing with him, and then when she's like, "Are you gonna be that one?" And he's like, "Oh no, don't be an idiot. I'm never gonna be that one." And she throws him out. Boom. And then so Subaru is basically running around this mansion with Otto and Petra, trying to avoid these fights and all these mob beasts. There's a great scene where he faces a big mob beast on his own, and he tries to do the Goblin Hunter open flame, throwing dust into a room, and it doesn't work. And he's like, "I don't know what that was." And then Otto's like, "Throw oil, you idiot!" Otto and Petra are throwing all these oil canisters, and the beast catches on fire, and so the mansion burns. Actually, most of Garfield's fight is like all red. Just everything's just red because of the mansion burning down. And then while this is happening, Emilia has to do her second and third trials. The second trial she goes through, she basically gets a picnic day with her stepmother and stepfather in a great life where they didn't go crazy and murder the other one. And she even suggests like, "Hey, you should move in with us." And like, "Oh, then people will talk." Did you not hear people on the way here? They talk. Who cares if they talk? And then she goes up and Archie's there and he's like, "Is this the life you live?" She's like, "This would have been really nice, but I'm okay with my life." And then Echidna's there and she thanks Echidna for showing her to this. And Echidna starts crying and says, "I hate you." And then Emilia does this beautiful swan dive into the water and passes that trial. And then her third
Little did
trial,
we know that's all it was to pass the trial. Just do a swan dive.
just learn how to
Do a
dive into
swan.
water. It reminded me of like a Kingdom Hearts scene. There's always like diving into water and
Yes.
reflections in that.
I did notice that she sees her reflection in the water. She's like, "Oh, I don't look that much like Mother Fortuna."
Yeah, she does say that right before she goes in. That's right. Which is insane because she does. And then her third trial is seeing the future, and she sees like her standing over like ruins in a burnt building and saying, "I hate you" to someone. And then that disappears, and she hears a bunch of voices. Some that sounded like they might have been
through
the
a
previous
ton.
episode, but it should be future episodes. None of them made any sense without context. So just a lot of people saying a lot of random stuff.
And
then
negative. Almost all negative.
Yes. And then she sees an outline of Subaru. Oh, first just Rem. She sees Rem, and then Subaru and Rem, and then the trial. Then she's at the tea party, and the Witch of Wrath, I forget her name, shows up, puts a gun to her head, but it's just her finger, and it's like, "Don't turn around." But you passed. Echidna doesn't like you. She doesn't want to see you anymore. And then she turns around to see her, and Wrath hugs her, and then sends her on her way. And then says, "Well, I'll have a tea party." She's like, "I want to have a tea party next time." I'm like, "Yeah, well, I'll do it, and we'll just drag Echidna here." and
It sounds like a family.
I
does.
was
Sounds
wondering because the condiments, or not the condiments, but the like cookies and
The
like
cookies
tea
are
and stuff are Echidna. What would have happened if she would have eaten one of them?
Oh, that's true. She would have had the mark of Echidna, or because she would have consumed some of her. That's right.
Anyways, we can move on. I just thought that was interesting because she reached for it, and Wrath like stops her from taking it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yep. When she came out of the second trial, I forgot to mention the village and the sanctuary residence. So Roswell's people and the people who got trapped here, and then the demi-humans are also there to support her. Even though the demi-humans are like, we don't trust you, but Gar's helping you, and he's like the best, so we're giving you a shot.
This 14-year-old boy leads us.
Out of fear.
Uh-huh.
When Emilia comes out the third time, then there's a blizzard, and the people are in the thing. And then the time frame of some of these episodes are weird because sometimes we're jumping back and forth because of this blizzard. We see Emilia come out in the blizzard, and then we jump back to the fight with Roswell and Ram and Puck.
Well, because we were under the impression that Ram got to Roswell before he did whatever he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
He did it before Ram got there.
But the blizzard has started, and then we do jump back in time. So this is not in sequential order completely, but we do get to see their fight, which is just a really cool fight. And I love Puck. Puck does this move where he Roswell. He's talking behind Roswell up in the air, and Roswell thinks he's turned into that form that we once saw destroy the world. And he turns around so scared, and it's just Big Puck. He's like, I made myself big, got you. And Roswell does like his most powerful Kamehameha at it, but that gives time for Ram to get to him. And Ram had said, "I love you," and Roswell was like, "No, you're supposed to kill me. Like people who use fire should die by fire. I've used you. I've always intended to die by you, and you know I was involved in your village. You have to hate me. You vowed to kill me." And she's like, yeah, but I don't. I love you, and I'm going to save you. And he's really upset by that. But during this attack against Puck, she steals his book and she throws it into his own fire, and he blasts him. Yeah, he goes nuts and blasts her with a giant fireball, and then he's holding her like, oopsie, and he's like, but I love. It starts snowing, and Puck's like, oh my god, you got the spell off. We didn't realize. We thought we had beat you, and you had won this the whole time. She got her objective, but the goal was to stop you from making the stone. He's like, you are the most powerful human magic user ever. But you are not like that demon. You are still a human, which is referring to the guy who kicked his butt back in Sanctuary. Mm-hmm. So Puck leaves to go. We find out he made a place for the villagers to hide in, and then he signaled Emilia to come to where Ryuzu's body's in the crystal. Emilia also has now broken the barrier, which, she gets to Echidna's body and goes, who is this?
Right, she just saw Echidna.
Which to me means that what we're seeing isn't exactly what she's seeing.
Or she's confused by what she sees, because she would assume this is a graveyard. Echidna's in the ground, right? So who is this?
That doesn't make any sense to me. All right.
I would just have to assume that because that's what she looks like in the visions. I don't know, the way they draw her.
Yeah. I'm saying the anime is not being truthful in its illustrations.
Right. That would be really meta if that's the case.
Anyway, after breaking the barrier, the ice outside, she sees the crystal, and all the Ryuzus are there, and Ryuzushima is like, we have to turn this part off too, and they're like, stop her, and she's like, I think I'm okay with it. And then Ryuzushima and the crystal disappear.
I really thought they were going to wake up original Ryuzu.
Yeah,
I was surprised that they made her disappear instead.
I wouldn't be surprised, though, if that's not the end of her, but I don't know.
That's probably a one-way trip.
Yeah, that makes sense. She goes outside, then she sees Roswell holding onto Ram, and she's like, what did you do? And he's like, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. She's like, don't you ever give up. And I love this speech at him because it's like the words of Subaru coming through her mouth. She has arced into parallel with Subaru's arc, and she's like, we're not giving up. We're going to keep trying. And then the white rabbit's showing up, and she's blasting it with ice. She's like, we're going back to the graveyard to hide, and they all run off. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, it's a burning down. Subaru's trying to find Beatrice, and he gets in there, and he tells her, like, would you quit acting like this? She's like, I'm not acting. He's like, no, you are, because I keep finding the door, which you don't have to let me. Quit being a baby. Let's go. And she kicks him out again, and he opens all the doors, and there's no doors left except for there's the one door. There's a secret exit out of Roswell's room, so he goes to that, and he's like, oh my god, if she's not here, I'm going to die.
Because there's like flame licking out from the backside of it, so
Right.
you have that
Yeah.
overcooked door scenario.
It's going to be a backdraft, yep. But he opens
I
it.
love throughout this whole thing, he keeps calling her out on her BS.
Mhm.
It's so great.
So he goes in, one final plea, and he's like, basically he says, I need you to help me. There's no point in me saying I'm going to help you. I obviously am not capable of that. I need you to help me, and I'm asking you to choose me. And she's like, but you're not going to be that one. He's like, no, I'm not. But choose me anyway. And she's like, but it's going to be a short human life, which is nothing to me, who's immortal. And he's like, it'll still be great. It'll be tomorrow, and tomorrow will be great. And then we'll
During this whole confrontation, the reality of this room is breaking apart.
Yes.
And it works. And then you see them fly off into the sky, and she's saying his name a lot.
A lot.
She's never called him by his name before, and so she's saying his name. They have officially formed a contract. They land at the graveyard, and they battle the White Rabbit, and he's able to use her spell while they hold hands, and then she's like, I need you to be bait. He's like, that's what I'm good at. So the White Rabbit, if you don't remember, every time you kill it, it just remultiplies back to its max number, but there is a max number. So they just round it all up into a square, cover it with crystals, which Emilia then puts in ice, and they lift it up, and Beatrice uses Shamak, which means
Al-Shamak,
which means they're completely disoriented and dazed. They don't know what they're doing, so they start eating each other, and then she just folds them up into a dimension, so they're gone. And I'm like, wait, is that an option for all villains? How many dimensions can we use? Will they come back? Is that can we get some rule sets on that? That's kind of
Can we
crazy.
just send bad guys into the rabbit
Right?
dimension
There
now?
you go. Yep. Or drop your rabbits on a bad guy if you have to.
I wouldn't be surprised if that comes back later. But I thought they were gonna like literally eat each other till they were all gone. And she's like, no, I'm just gonna put them in a room.
Time out.
So the day is saved and everyone is happy. We get a scene of Beatrice talking to Roswell over Echidna's corpse as they see their teacher one more time. She explains why she has chosen Subaru. Yes, she'll never be his true love, but she can love him, and that's good enough for her. And he reveals, I'm actually the same Roswell from 400 years ago, and so she slaps him with a shoe. That's disgusting. And then we get everyone beating up Roswell. Everyone gets one free punch. That's his payment. And then they're like, well, how can we trust you? And he has literally put an oath seal into his chest. If he ever goes against Subaru's plan, he will burn in hell. and Subaru's like, wait, would that have been on me? He's like, yes, that if you had lost, this was going to be yours.
Careful with the contracts you make.
And then Emilia makes him apologize officially, though. He has to say sorry.
I thought that was so funny that like everybody else gets to punch him, and then Emilia's like, now say you're sorry.
Well, it's because, and this is a little bit creepy because partly Emilia is still that child. She's only been out of that ice for a few years.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Which is why we skipped over the scene. Her and Subaru had a talk on the stairs. And she's like, "You need to talk about that kiss." We need to talk. I'm pregnant. And he's like, wait, what? And she's like, and you're going to be the father. He's like, wait, what? No, that's not how babies work. And she's like, well, you kissed me, and that's how girls get pregnant. He's like, frickin' Puck. But yeah, so and that's something like a young child would still believe. And yeah, again, that makes it a little bit creepy. She is a full-grown teenage girl, but there's parts of her that are so naive because of most of her life being, hundreds of years being spent locked, frozen in ice.
A question I have is,
and raised by Puck.
Yeah, when you're stuck in the ice like that in suspended animation in a confined space, did her body physically grow?
I don't know how much time is. I don't know what she looked like when she came out of the ice. none of us have watched the OVA because we're the worst. We always say we're
I
gonna
know.
watch the OVA, and I have
Never do.
no idea how long Puck and her were together before Roswell got involved.
Yeah. There is
Okay.
some possibility that just maybe.
I'm gonna believe it's totally cool.
Yeah. Let's just
Yeah.
believe that.
Totally kosher.
All right. After everyone beats on Roswell, they have a knighting ceremony for Subaru, and there's that great scene of Roswell being like, "I'm on your side, but if we're not on my side, I'll just kill everybody, and then you'll just reset." I can burn in hell multiple times. That's fine. Yeah, guys. Again, I love that they didn't fully defang him. He's not. Oh, I'm Team Subaru. He's like, no, I'm a gun to your head at all times, but I'll help you.
I'm still gonna use you to get my wish.
Really great the knighting scene, especially not only remembering how far we've come this season, but from when Subaru first proclaimed himself a knight and how that led to their big fight and back at the Capitol and all that. I kept thinking back to those scenes and thinking how far he's come, how far they've both come, and with each other. And then we just get a really nice party. They talk on a balcony. They're going to talk again later in a room. And I'm like, can we just do it now? Well, don't make me wait 3 years.
That needs multiple nights? That sounded
well, that's
special.
what Subaru was saying. I can't wait to see what we talk about. And she's like, I don't know what that means. And I'm like, yeah, she probably doesn't if she thinks kissing makes you pregnant. So that's definitely not what she's asking him to the room for.
Doesn't have a clue.
I guess he has some explaining to do.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Explaining to do.
Then they go dancing. And everyone's there. Even Rem, asleep in a wheelchair. Gets to go to the
God.
I was like, why did they bring her? They even dressed her up.
Yeah. She's in her maid outfit. I'm like, put her in some jammies. Jeez. Also, this is taking place at Roswell's like cousin's mansion. Whose name is Anne Morosa, and we just get like this staring at Subaru scene, and then that's the only thing we get with her. So
we do get this weird shot of like her and all of her staff, and some of them look drawn in such a way that they'll probably become important characters in season 3.
Right? That was my thought. Like, I bet you're important later. If Otto becomes important, I bet we're gonna need to know you.
Yep.
And that takes us to the end of season 2 for who knows how long. Any last thoughts or anything I missed? I know at the end we definitely had to rush through, but okay.
That's good.
Let's then go on to our final reviews. Jeremy, what do you want to give this one?
I absolutely loved it. Obviously, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. To me, this was kind of like Fire Emblem, the anime for this season, just because he had to make such good use of the right characters in the right situations. If you bring the wrong ones to the right situation, it doesn't work. You have to send the correct tokens to the correct slots in order for all the puzzle pieces to fit together and for everybody to take everybody out, right? Like Ram and Frederica, not going to handle Elsa. But if you bring in Garf, you've got that covered, and etc. for all the other situations. And it was really cool seeing that plan unfold. Emilia's character development was great. But the thing that's probably going to stay with me the longest is how awesome that fight scene was, and my curiosity about what have we not been told and what have we been lied to about. And so, yes, again, 5 out of 5. Absolutely loved it.
All right, Jason, what did you think?
I've said this over and over about this anime that lives and breathes its characters. And the storytelling is so well done. And especially in this second half of this season, it was so tight, but also so believable. And even though we knew that, throughout from episode 1 till now, even though we know he's got this power of return by death, they always manage to raise the stakes and make you feel the stakes. And with that reset button available, I still am biting my nails in fights like, Garfield versus Elsa. And I love that the anime is willing to take a step back from their main characters and let these other characters shine. The writing's fantastic. The music is spot on. The story beats are beautiful. 5 out of 5.
Yeah, it's 5 out of 5. This is, like I said, this is the Anime Watcher's nearly perfect anime. I had a few gripes, very little nitpicks, nothing that diminished my enjoyment of watching this. It's the anime setting the bar for all of the anime, especially isekai
Oh yeah.
that are currently being made. All right, our next anime is a fun one.
Maturity warning.
Maturity warning. Horror. I think we actually have a couple horror on the horizon here pretty soon. We're probably going to become a very horror heavy, but I mean, we follow where the anime going, so don't blame us.
Not W, but H. Sorry.
Horror? Is that what you meant?
I'm trying to think if there's any anime.
Oh, come on. That was a great joke.
Definitely was not. Higirashi
come
When
on.
They Cry. Higirashi When They Cry is the anime. We're going to be watching the first half. Do we know how many episodes that is?
No, I know that there's 24 in total.
Let's just do the first 12.
It might be 13 because it shows 13 on my anime list, and I'm wondering if they just paused there in updating because it was a good stopping point.
The worst.
I didn't want to spoil myself to know where to stop.
So nice.
Nice.
The problem is that if you look up Higurashi When They Cry, they won't bring it up. Let's just do the first 12. If we need to amend that, we will do it on Twitter. Which, if you would like to talk to us about Higurashi When They Cry or ReZero, you can do so on our Twitter at Baka Podcast, and email the animebakaclub@gmail.com, or leave a comment wherever you found the podcast, and we'll be happy to respond and start up a conversation. That's like our favorite part of this podcast. Anyway, that's all we have for tonight. Let's go ahead and say goodbye.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.
Sayonara.